CEO if you want to succeed in business or life. Sounds inspiring, right? But what if that advice is actually holding you back? Today, we're uncovering why mimicking a CEO's mindset can be misleading and what truly successful people do differently. 1. The CEO mindset myth. Think like a CEO has become a mantra for career advice. You see it on LinkedIn, in business books, and on motivational videos. The idea is simple. If you adopt the thought patterns of CEOs, you'll make smarter decisions, act strategically, and eventually rise to the top. But here's the problem. This advice assumes that all CEOs are infallible geniuses. It paints a one-size-fits-all picture. The reality is far messier. CEOs are human. They make mistakes, face uncertainty, and often rely on teams to correct their blind spots. In fact, telling someone to think like a CEO can encourage shortcuts, overconfidence, and a focus on status rather than substance. It might push you to mimic behaviors without understanding the underlying principles that actually drive success. 2. CEOs don't think in isolation. One of the biggest misconceptions is that CEOs are lone strategists who single-handedly shape the future of their companies. The truth? Most CEOs spend a huge portion of their time listening, collaborating, and managing teams. For example, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, is celebrated for transforming the company. But his success wasn't just about thinking like a CEO in isolation. It was about fostering a culture where employees' ideas mattered, experimenting with new strategies, and learning from failures. When people try to think like a CEO on their own, they often neglect this collaborative reality. They focus on appearing decisive, confident, and authoritative, but forget the critical skill of asking questions, seeking feedback, and admitting what they don't know. 3. Short-term thinking versus long-term learning. Another trap of the CEO mindset advice is that it emphasizes short-term decisiveness over long-term learning. CEOs often need to make quick, high-stakes decisions, but those decisions are supported by years of experience, expert advice, and data analysis. For instance, if a young entrepreneur tells themselves, "I need to think like a CEO and make bold moves," they might take unnecessary risks without proper preparation. Boldness alone isn't wisdom. Real growth comes from incremental learning, experimentation, and reflection, not pretending to be a CEO and hoping for instant brilliance. The danger is that mimicking a CEO mindset can make people feel pressured to act decisively, even when they lack the knowledge, context, or resources. This can lead to costly mistakes, burnout, and frustration. 4. The ego trap. Think like a CEO can unintentionally fuel the ego. It encourages people to act authoritatively, even when they're not in a position to lead. This often leads to overconfidence, micromanagement, and decision-making based on perception rather than reality. Consider the story of a startup founder. Let's call him Alex. Alex read countless books about CEO thinking and tried to adopt the persona of a bold, decisive leader. He ignored feedback from his team, avoided asking questions, and pushed through decisions to appear confident. The result? On poor product design, frustrated employees, and ultimately a failed launch. The lesson is clear. Leadership isn't about appearing like a CEO. It's about understanding what needs to happen, learning constantly, and empowering others. Thinking like a CEO without the experience or context is like wearing a captain's uniform while having no idea how to navigate the ship. The uniform alone won't prevent you from crashing. 5. What truly successful people do. Instead of trying to think like a CEO, look at what highly effective people actually do. They think in first principles, not status roles. Elon Musk, for example, approaches problems by breaking them down to their fundamental truths rather than copying a CEO persona. They prioritize learning over looking confident. Every successful leader emphasizes continuous learning. Warren Buffett spends hours reading every day, constantly sharpening his knowledge before making investment decisions. They leverage teams. True leaders build environments where expertise thrives. They know that success comes from collective intelligence, not pretending to have all the answers. They embrace humility and curiosity. Curiosity drives innovation. Humility keeps them grounded. Pretending to think like a CEO often skips both. The common thread? Success isn't about mimicking a role. It's about building the right habits, mindset, and processes that allow you to make better decisions, faster learning, and smarter actions. 6. The danger of superficial advice. Advice like "think like a CEO" is appealing because it's simple and catchy, but simplicity often hides danger. It implies that success can be achieved by imitation, and not understanding. This is particularly harmful for young entrepreneurs and professionals. They may prioritize image over substance, authority over insight, and confidence over competence. Over time, this can stunt growth, erode trust, and lead to repeated mistakes. Instead of adopting superficial labels, focus on developing critical thinking, learning from failures, and understanding real-world contexts. These are the traits that distinguish truly successful people from those simply acting the part. 7. Real-life example. Airbnb. Airbnb's story perfectly illustrates why thinking like a CEO is misleading advice. Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia didn't start by trying to adopt a CEO persona or follow generic business mantras. They weren't trying to look authoritative or make bold, confident decisions for the sake of appearances. Instead, they focused on understanding their users deeply, experimenting constantly, and iterating based on real feedback. In the early days, growth didn't come from fancy strategies or trying to act like experienced leaders. Chesky and Gebbia personally visited users, watched how they used the platform, and fixed small but critical problems in real time. They listened carefully to every concern, tested new ideas, and adjusted rapidly. Their success was grounded in learning, observation, and empathy, not in mimicking the behavior of established executives. Over time, this hands-on, reflective approach became the foundation of Airbnb's long-term success. The company learned to adapt to changing markets. 8. Actionable takeaways. So, what should you do instead of trying to think like a CEO? Think like a learner. Approach problems with curiosity. Ask questions and seek multiple perspectives. Focus on first principles. Break problems down to the basics. Don't rely on CEO intuition or assumed authority. Prioritize impact over image. Make decisions based on outcomes, not how confident or authoritative you appear. Build systems, not personas. Success is rarely about who you pretend to be. It's about creating processes, habits, and structures that allow sustainable growth. Collaborate and listen. Leadership isn't a solo sport. The best decisions come from combining expertise, feedback, and experimentation. By shifting your focus from imitating a role to developing real skills, habits, and judgment, you'll outperform anyone simply thinking like a CEO. You'll make smarter decisions, build stronger teams, and achieve results that last. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe for more.